Hej och välkomna! Jag heter Carolina Hemlin och är chefredaktör för Tidskriften Ottar som är RFSUs tidning som ser ut så här. Och det här är vårt senaste nummer där man kan träffa massa inspirerande och coola personer som vi har som förebilder runt om i världen. Jätteintressanta intervjuer och reportage i det här numret. Och Ottar är en sexualpolitisk tidskrift som ges ut av RFSU och kommer ut 4 gånger per år. Och den finns att köpa här i montern för bara 20 kronor. Och idag har vi en gäst från Ungern med oss här på scenen och därför kommer vi nu byta till engelska. So, hi and welcome. My name is Carolina Hemlin and I'm the editor of this magazine Ottar, which is produced from the organization RFSU and comes out 4 times a year. In our last issue, which is this one, we had a longer text from Hungary, from the capital Budapest, where Sanna was, and you met 3 LGBT or more LGBT persons in Budapest, and you can read in this issue about the situation for LGBT persons in Hungary, and it's quite homophobic and oppressive. And we're going to talk more about this because that is the subject for this conversation. So welcome, Sanna. And we are very proud to have with us today Orsolya, Jeney from Hungary, and you are the director of Amnesty Hungary, or the Amnesty's Hungarian section, or what you call it. Very welcome. So we're going to talk about LGBT persons' rights, but before that we are going to address an issue that is even more urgent, and that is that Hungary has been in focus now for a couple of weeks or months because of the refugee crisis in Europe, and we have seen dramatic scenes from the Hungarian borders where thousands of people that are fleeing are trying to cross Hungary to get to Northern Europe. And there has been also dramatic scenes from the railroad station in Budapest, and a lot of focus has been on Hungary these days for the hostile politics also against the refugees. And Hungary has received a lot of criticism also for their actions in this refugee crisis. What do you, as an Amnesty director, have to say about this? What's Amnesty's perspective on this?
Probably it is not very surprising that we are extremely concerned about the situation, and we are extremely concerned about how the rights of refugees and migrants are totally disregarded by a democratic European member state. We have been raising our concerns, we have been sharing our recommendations with the government, trying to help their work in meeting their human rights obligations. We did not succeed for reasons of how the government is lately just, disregarding any other voices. The Hungarian government seems to be very committed in keeping refugees outside of its border, by this clearly violating its international obligations. And because of this thousands, 10,000s, today I think the number should be around 200,000 of people who came through Hungary, and the rhetoric that is going on now. And the background voice also suggests us that something is really not wrong, really not right in Hungary. And so we are very concerned, and clearly we'll have a longer talk later about the refugees, but the situation is very sad, and we are leaving a lot of vulnerable people alone.
Yeah. And we will get back to that, of course. But do you think that this politics that Hungary's government is, the hostile politics against refugees, can you say that it also is reflecting on the situations for LGBT persons? Is that the same oppressive climate that is, a bigger ideological, political stand from the government?
What we've seen in the past few years is that every half a year there were always some groups that the Hungarian government was trying to blame or single out. At the beginning it was, for example, the homeless people who were criminalized. Then a year ago it was us, the civil NGOs, whom the government was trying to discredit. Now it is the refugees. There is definitely a trend where anything else other than the Christian values of the government are trying to be singled out. On the other side, I would say that luckily, when it comes to LGBTI people, definitely they are not accepted, but at least there's not such a systemic targeting against them. And in fact, this year we had the biggest Budapest Pride ever, with 10,000 people celebrating happily. But we'll go more into that later, I guess.
Yeah. Sanna, you wanted to say something about that you can see a solidarity movement between the LGBTI activists and the refugee crisis situation. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm following in this in media, but also in my Facebook feed, and I can see that there's a lot of LGBT activists that they're working with the refugee as volunteers in the refugee crisis, and they're helping by the Serbian border and volunteering with food and water and trying to give the help that the government is not giving right now. So,
would you say that there is some special connection? Just because they also are a discriminated or marginalized group, is it like the people are helping?
I don't know. I think among the minorities there seems to be a lot of the activists that I talk about like solidarity, that they want to underline the connections. I mean, it's not the same thing, of course. It's very different, but there is. The government is targeting minorities in general. So
yeah. But can you tell us a bit about when you were there this spring? You met with a lot of LGBTI activists in Budapest. How are the situation in Hungary today, and what has it changed in the last years? What's happening?
From what I understood as a journalist, it's there are both good things and bad things, but there's especially the rise of the extreme right wing it's affecting them a lot. And there seems to be, they were talking a lot about the silence in the LGBTQ community, that it's very hard to actually have a voice because the media is so run by the government. So it's very hard to actually have another perspective and get it out, which I guess that you
would you agree, Orsolya?
No, definitely. When it comes to the media, which is clearly a very important part, we can observe that there's a very centralized media, very much centralized. And if you turn on the TV nowadays, all you hear is how bad these people are, these illegal people are. They are really bad, these people. It's very, very frightening. What you also mentioned, Sandra, is the uprise of the right wing. It is now up to about 20%. And right wing in Hungary is hardcore. I've heard that you also have, unfortunately, a third biggest party here. I will be very curious to see what it means to be a far right in Sweden and what it is in Hungary. But in Hungary, they even when it comes to politically being correct, even that they don't respect. They are very blatantly. For example, the mayor of Budapest, when he was invited to the Budapest Pride, he said he thinks that the Pride is not natural and it is disgusting, and that the road where these people are going is being disrespected by these people being there. This is the mayor of Budapest in 2015. So what is unfortunate is that they don't even have a sense of, at least let's behave, or at least put your opinion in a much more mature way. But no, there's no sense in that. And when the Prime Minister, for example, is being asked on the International Day Against Homophobia whether he has anything to say, he says he could make some jokes about it, but not now. But he's at least happy that these people are not provoking the Hungarian society. I leave it up to you to judge.
Yeah. Well, Sanna, you are writing in your article in Ottar that there is a history of violence towards LGBTI persons, and especially during the Pride Festival. I don't know about this year, but last year when, as you refer to in your text, there were people attacked, and but also LGBTI persons are afraid to press charges against the perpetrators because, why? Why are they afraid to? Because there is a law against hate crimes in Hungary.
Yes, and from a couple of years, the sexual orientation is explicitly mentioned.
Okay.
So, which is a very good thing. Yes.
Good.
So that's great. And I actually heard now that the first verdict was sentenced, right? A woman who had attacked a person in 2013 after the Pride March. So, but it took 2 years to actually use the law. So that was kind of, they were kind of, when I was in Budapest this spring, they were kind of waiting for that sentence to, maybe something would happen with that.
And we heard also you were writing about that it takes a long time, and it's very much bureaucracy when you report a crime that is a hate crime. But why are people afraid of pressing charges? Or
I mean, I guess it's like everywhere. This is a problem in Sweden as well. That people know that it's going to be hard. Maybe, I mean, it's worse in Hungary, of course, but they know that there's a risk that they might be ill-treated in some way, and they don't want to be a victim like the second time. That's what they told me, the people that I talked to. And one of the people that I talked to in the article is Andrea Giuliano. He's an activist and a photographer, and he was attacked, and there was a lot of hate speech on the internet and threats against him, and he tried to press charges. And when he was at the police station, he heard a police officer call him a faggot, not to his face, but like in the room, or like. So that's the kind of thing that might happen to you if you go to the police and tell them this is what happened to me. But then I know that you have a new group among the police that's supposed to work with hate crime. Right.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yes.
Yes, actually they are just finishing that part. With Amnesty in Hungary, we've been working for more than 5 years now to improve hate crime legislation implementation, and actually it was one of our wins to lobby in the criminal code that sexual orientation and gender identity should be explicitly mentioned, something that we were very surprised, because in this climate, winning something for the LGBTI people was unbelievable. So we still don't understand since then, but it's there. But the problem is that the cases are usually underclassified. So when you say I was attacked because my perceived sexual orientation, police would say, no, you were just attacked. So that's one of the problems. Second of the problem is that policemen themselves do not have sufficient skills and competencies to realize if something could be possibly a hate crime. The third issue is that it's always the prosecution who has to present the charge. And because prosecution knows that it's very hard to prove that the motivation was because of prejudice and hate, they also prefer not to do that. What you were mentioning, it is also the people usually do not trust authorities to report such crimes, because also these crimes are pretty humiliating to you. But luckily we also achieved with the NGO coalition that we established that there is special units within the police who have the speciality to realize these cases. But now it seems that they are stopping it because there's no resource. So we'll have some more work to do with that.
But Orsi, what does Amnesty do to work with the LGBTI questions and rights?
Interestingly, we started to work in 2009 with Amnesty on LGBTI rights. And the idea at that time was that we were among the first NGOs who are not typically LGBT NGOs. And if you also think that the right of these people, if I might say, is important, then it sends a very strong message to society that we are all equal, regardless of our sexual orientation or gender identity. So originally we started organizing delegations at the Budapest Pride event so that there's a bigger and bigger presence of Amnesty. In 2011, when the police wanted to ban, they actually banned the Pride, but then the court overruled it. Then we actually had an international delegation, Amnesty is watching you. But other than that, we are holding different workshops and sensitizing activities with youth. And for the police, we are holding trainings on how to realize whether something is a hate crime or not. And we are kind of trying to bring in the issue constantly and try to talk about LGBT rights just as of any other right. Yeah. And it seems that we are doing quite well now. At the beginning, people would want to leave us. They did not agree that we are dealing with the homosexuals, we said, well, this is not exactly in this way, but by now I feel that this is a totally general topic, which I think is a good sign that over the past few years, it's not such a big deal. Sexual orientation, I feel, in the everyday life, it's no longer such a big deal. Now we are a gender identity that people still don't get, so that will be our second wave of bringing in to the public's attention.
Yeah. But how would you say, if you look like 5 years ahead from now, how is the situation for LGBTI persons getting worse in some way, or do you think it will be status quo? What do you have a forecast?
What I've been sensing is that the LGBTI community is getting really, really strong. Like, people are really committed. Plus, I mean, this is such a great cause. It's all colorful, and we talk about people, and we talk about love. Nobody can choose love, and we talk about who we are. I didn't choose who I am today. And so I think people are becoming much more determined. And yes, there are negative things happening. Yes, there are attacks. But the fact that this year we were 10,000 compared to previous years, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, there's a lot of homosexual and cis people also going out there, which I feel that in Hungary, society is getting the sense that this is not about just, it's not their, so to say, issue, but it's our joint issue together to be all equal. So I think the community will strengthen. The government is still around for another 3 years, and then very many people think that after the right wing will come. So clearly, when it comes to rhetorical level, LGBT community will always remain a secondary citizen, I think, in Hungary.
Yeah. Sanna, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I was thinking about the Pride March that you mentioned. I wasn't there, but I read on the Pride organization's webpage, and they were calling for. I mean, since you had so many such big attacks in 2007, there's been a lot of security, and police has basically been like cutting off everything, right? So you have to start at a certain place, and then you walk, and you can't just join if you want to. So it's very like cut off from the public. But they were actually saying that we would like the police to do this in another way, like maybe not have this kind of like police chain or police fence. It should be something that the public should be able to join. So I thought that was very positive, like that they had that sense that it could work in another way, not just calling for more security.
Yeah, I just want to, we're out of time, but I want to ask one more question to you, Orsolya. And because we, Ottar and RFSU are working a lot with the rights of abortion, for free, legal and safe abortion. And Hungary has, from 2012, the constitution was written, a new constitution, and it was written in that life is sacred from the moment of conception, or something like that.
Life is protected from the moment of conception.
And that usually means, or could mean in some countries or states, that abortion is totally forbidden. But it is not forbidden.
Not yet.
What's happening on the abortion issue?
That it's not even sacred. It's worse. It's protected since the moment of conception, which clearly could mean that if I don't think I need to explain it in Sweden. We were very concerned about this. Clearly there were no responses to that. Nothing happened yet. But again, recently we've heard some rumors that they are trying to become stronger on abortion. So far,
and is that when you say they, is the government?
The government, sorry, yes. Sorry, in that I don't believe in us, but in they. So apparently they are trying. I do hope it can't be possible, because at the end of the day we are part of the European Union. I do hope that we are not losing all of our values.
But is Amnesty working with the abortion rights issue in Hungary?
No, not in Hungary. We are 6 people. Our annual budget is 100,000 euros. So unfortunately, we are very limited in doing many things. And with the refugee crisis, we are pretty overwhelmed now. And with the hate crime work.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you for talking with us.
Thanks. We'll be around. I think you can talk to us.
Yeah.
Also later.
Come and talk to these people afterwards.